nothing like getting up on Sunday morning and going visiting where you can, folks. It's wonderful, Lord. We love you. We thank you for loving us, and we thank you for presence in our lives. Be with Rick as he brings the word out of your book today, Lord. If there's anyone here today that don't know you, they're perfect. Maybe today will be the day that they'll make that life-changing decision. We love you, and thank you for your presence in our lives once again. These things we ask in your sweet, precious name. Amen.
All right, y'all can stand with us this morning. Go ahead.
I'm reaching, barely breathing. Do you see me here below? I believe you, help me see you. I need to know that you're near me, Lord.
Fear not, for I am the Lord your God, and trust that I'm working all things out. So in the field of doubt, plant a seed of faith, and I'll send the rain. I'll send the rain.
You're working, I'm growing in the trial and through the storm. In the waiting, teach me patience. Remind my heart that I'm not alone. You say,
Fear not, I am the Lord your God, and trust that I'm working all things out. So in the field of doubt, plant a seed of faith, and I'll send the rain.
let it rain, let it rain. Things start to change, so bring the rain, bring the rain. It won't stay the same. From glory to glory, you're writing my story. When it rains, when it rains, let it rain. Let it rain, let it rain. Things start to change, so bring the rain, bring the rain. It won't stay the same. From glory to glory, you're writing my story. When it rains, so let it rain. spoke a word, you were singing over me. You have been so, so good to me. Before I took a breath, you breathed your life in me. You have been so, so kind to me. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves the 99. I couldn't earn it, I don't deserve it, still you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. I was your foe, still your love fought for me. You have been so, so good to me. When I felt no worth, you paid it all for me. You have been so, so kind to me. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves to 99. I couldn't earn it, I don't deserve it, still you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. Into the darkness you shine. Out of the ashes we rise. There's no one like you. None like you. Our God is greater. Our God is stronger. God, you are higher than any other. Our God is healer. Awesome in power. Our God. Our God. Into the darkness you shine. Out of the ashes we rise. There's no one like you. None like you. Our God is greater. Our God is stronger. God, you are higher than any other. Our God is healer. Awesome in power. Our God. Our God. Our God is greater. Our God is stronger. God, you are higher than any other. Our God is healer. Awesome in power. Our God. Our God. And if our God is for us, then who could ever stop us? And if our God is with us, then what could stand against? And if our God is for us, then who could ever stop us? And if our God is with us, then what could stand against? What could stand against? Our God is greater. Our God is stronger. God, you are higher than any other. Our God is healer. Awesome in power. Our God. Our God. Our God is greater. Our God is stronger. God, you are higher than any other. Our God is healer. Awesome in power. Our God. Our God. And if our God is for us, then who could ever stop us? And if our God is with us, then what could stand against? And if our God is for us, then who could ever stop us? And if our God is with us, then what could stand against? Then what could stand against?
They say sometimes you win some, sometimes you lose some. Right now I'm losing bad. I've stood on this stage night after night, reminding the broken it'll be alright. But right now, oh right now I just They say it only takes a little faith to move a mountain. Well, good thing, little faith is all I have right now. God, when you choose, the mountains are movable. Oh, give me the strength to be able to sing. It is well with my
no gifts for you. We all love gifts, even if they're bad gifts, right? They were free. They're given to you, right? If you get Christmas socks, that's that better, Mom? Thank you. So great crowds are following him, and rightfully so, because he's not preaching certain messages or singing certain music. He's healing people, right? He's performing miracles, and people are seeing things. Now, this is before YouTube, where you could doctor videos and make everything look real. He's really performing stuff and blowing people's minds in a way that they didn't understand it. They'd never seen anything like this. They've never seen paralyzed people get up and walk. They've never seen blind people be able to see. They've never seen lepers be healed and cleansed the way that Jesus was doing this. And so his tactics were hard to get around. I mean, this guy was doing stuff that was bringing in attention. And so great crowds began to follow him. And you would think, if you were trying to tell somebody about Jesus, you would lead with, man, people are coming from all over to hear him. And they're following him around, they're watching, they're waiting, and they're looking for the next miracle. Now, he has reached success in ministry, all right? But here's the secret that you need to know, okay? Not at this church, but this is how it usually goes. Our job is to bring in newcomers. The next step is to convert newcomers into sustained church members. That's my job, right? It's to get you in the door somehow, right? I need people going out and telling people how great of a pastor I am, how great the music is, how great the shade of gray on the wall is, how great the people are, in order to get people intrigued enough to come in and say, I just want to go check out what they're doing at Live Oak. Once you're here, my job is to sell you on how great this church is now, so that you come back next week. And then you come back the next week. And then you come back the next week. And it's kind of like a club to where I'm trying to convince you that this is the best club in the whole world, to where you want to keep coming back. So our job as a pastor is to bring in newcomers, convert them into church members, so that you continue to come, and here's the kicker, continue to tithe. That's why we want you here in this, again, not this church. I'm speaking on behalf of all churches. When I was at Lakeview with Jason, there was a group of churches that came together, and they hired this guy to come in and to teach this class, and the class was called 24 to Double. And the idea of the class was to double your church within 24 months. And they were going to teach us this process to go through in order to grow our church in 24 months, double its size. We made it to 4 meetings, and Jason told me it was garbage, and we wasn't going back, right? And I'm glad, because it was just this ploy to get as many people in your church as possible. And Jason knew it wasn't about growing the church and doubling the church if you're not making disciples out of the church, okay? So when we measure our success and we begin to look at, we got plenty of empty seats that we need to fill, we need to go find people to bring in to convince them that this is the greatest church, so that we can have a full parking lot and full chairs and have to bring in more chairs. And when that becomes our goal, we miss out on the gist of the message and the depth of the message, which is, I don't just want people coming in here, I want people being converted into disciples. And then I want them going out and making more disciples. We've been talking a lot about our small group classes, and right now my class is busting at the seams, and it's new, and I know everybody's trying to check it out, and that's great. But a healthy class, a healthy church, it should never grow to where it's 15,000 people. It should begin to branch off and begin to make more churches and more disciples and more things. It's supposed to grow and multiply, not grow so big that you don't know who's in your congregation. And I'm getting off on stuff that I don't need to even talk about. I'm sorry. So Jesus has grown his crowd to a great crowd, right? There's tons of people, and you think, man, he's about to hook them, because if there's ever been a great preacher in this world, 2 names come to mind, Jesus, and then way down below is Rick, right? And so you're thinking, man, he's about to come up with a great punchline like Rick does, or a great joke, or a great story, and everybody's going to be hooked, and they're going to come back next week to find out what kind of an idiot Rick is, and we're just going to laugh, and we're going to talk about it, and it's going to be great, right? So when Jesus has this great crowd following him, what profound statement is he going to give us that's going to hook those people to being lifetime disciples? He's got them in the palm of his hand. He has their attention. He has all their attention. They are looking at him. They're listening to every word he says. They're hanging on every word, just waiting on him to give them some truth that's going to change their life. And this is what he says. Verse number 26. The worst ministry statement I've ever read in my life. If anyone comes to me and does not hate his own father, mother, and wife, and children, and brothers, and sisters, yes, even his own life, he cannot be my disciple. You don't think that cut his crowd in about a quarter? If anybody was still there? We don't like to hear that. We don't want to hear that. We don't want to hear that we got to give up everything. One of the most horrible classes I've ever taught here. was we went through radical, where David Platt's teaching us how to have a radical faith and live as a radical believer in Jesus, to where we've just completely sold out. And we went through the text where Jesus tells the rich young man to go and sell everything he has and then come back. And we couldn't get past the fact that Jesus would tell somebody to sell all of his possessions. And why would he ever? He's not certainly not telling me to do that. He's not telling you to do that. That's always what we come up with, because it makes us so uncomfortable that Jesus would ask us to do that. When we read this text, we try to twist it and we try to justify it and we try to make it look like he's not saying what he said. Now, I will say this before I lose you, and I know this is hard to read, all right? That word hate. If you go back and you look in the original text and you go back and translate it into Jesus' words, anytime, this is a little Bible history for you. You do not have in your hand the original transcript of the Bible, all right? I'm sorry. If you thought that, I just burst your bubble. It's okay. I'm about to say an even more controversial statement, all right? The King James Version is not the original text. I don't care who wrote it in 1611. I don't care what King James, who he was, who he thought he was. It's not the original text. We took Greek, Hebrew, and we tried to do what we could into putting it into English, all right? As hard as English is, there's some words that we can't really piece together. We've done the best we can. Hate's one of those words, all right? So when we read this text, and we thought, I don't know why Jesus would tell us to hate our father, hate our mother, hate our wife, hate our children, hate our brothers, our sisters. Yes, even hate ourselves. Listen to me very carefully before we go any further, because I've already lost some people in here, and understandably so. He's not telling you to hate your father, your mother, your wife, your children, your brothers, your sisters. You're supposed to love everybody, right? He's very clear that we're supposed to love everybody as we love ourselves. And in other words, we're supposed to love people more than we love me. Our family is our very first ministry. I'm your pastor. My job is to minister to you. But before I minister to you, my job, according to the Bible, is to minister to Dallas and Hollis. That's number one in my ministry circle, right? Your job is to love your wife, to love your father, your mom, your wife, your husband, your kids. You're certainly supposed to love them. We get so hooked up on the hate your father, hate your mother, hate your wife, hate your children, hate your brothers, hate your sisters, and it bothers us and it makes us uncomfortable. We completely miss the line where it says even hate your own life. As much as you think you love your father and your mother, as much as you think you love your husband and your wife and your kids, you probably love yourself more than you love anybody else on that list, and we don't look at that line because it don't bother us as much, right? He's not telling us here to hate everybody in our family. He's not telling you to hate your wife, right? He's not telling you to hate your dad, your mom. He's not telling you to hate your kids. He's not telling you to hate your siblings. He's saying that when it comes to your love for me, every other love should be lesser than the love you have for me. You should love me first. If you're not ready to love me first, then you're not a disciple. You cannot be my disciple. If you don't love me first and then love everybody else second, and then everything else comes after that, including yourself should be the last thing on that list. We know that from other texts to where he says, you come last, right? Everything else should be a lesser love. That word hate could be translated better into lesser love. The reason we have a problem with this is this. Way back in the Old Testament, one of the 10 Commandments, there should be no other gods before me. Anything we put in front of God is an idol. It's a God with a little g, right? It's something that we worship. It's something that we celebrate. And there should never be anything in our life that we celebrate, that we honor, that we glorify, that we praise more than God. Why? He created you. When you rebelled against him, he loved you enough to send Jesus to save you. And he provides life for you even though you don't deserve that life. You deserve death because of the sin that you've accumulated. That sin is just plain and simply defined as rebellion. Just straight up rebellion to God. God gave you something. It'd be like if I gave Hollis a pancake, and he just slapped me in the face with a pancake. I would beat the tire out of him, right? God didn't. God gave us all the pancakes in the whole world, and we just threw them at him. We're like, I'm disrespectful. I hate you. I don't like you. I'm going to do whatever I want to do with this pancake. I'm going to throw it like a Frisbee, right? Even though it was clearly, if Aunt Jemima made it, it was meant for you to eat and enjoy, okay? Time out. Aunt Jemima perfected pancakes. We don't need to make homemade pancakes, all right? Just, those are the best. Time back in. All right. So God is telling us nothing should come before me. Anything that comes before me is an idol. So here's what happens, and here's why this verse hurts so much. Whew, poor Shannon and Cheryl. Was that kid screaming? Sounded like it. Anyways, many of us have a problem with this verse because we have taken our wife, we've taken our husband, and we've put them first, and they've become a god in our life. There's people in this room that have taken their mother, their father, and they've idolized them for years. They've looked up to them for years. They've loved them for years. Those people have provided for us. They've given us everything that we could ever want, and we idolize them. We put them on a pedestal, and they come first before anything else. If you've got kids in this room, more than likely, you have put those kids on such a pedestal that you love them more than anything else, including God, and those kids have become an idol in your life. That's not kids, that's an Amos. Now we're really worried about Shannon and Cheryl. Knox and Hollis have taken him captive. They've got him tied up. Shannon's a big dude, but I think all 55 of them could have took him. We struggle because we have idols in our life that we're refusing to let go of. Right? There's things in our life that we could cut out and we could get rid of and we could be just fine. Facebook, social media, we don't need it. It's an idol. TV is an idol. Your money becomes an idol. There's things in this life we don't need. Our families are important. And it's an honorable and respectful thing to be the man of your house and to be a father that loves his kids and loves his wife. It's an honorable and respectful thing to be a mom that loves her kids and loves her husband. It's great to be a kid that loves their parents and makes sure their parents are taken care of. It's great to love your kids and take care of your kids and do these things. But nothing in this world comes before God, including your family. Here's a free fact, all right? If you're having a hard time with this verse, let me go a little bit deeper. Before you can even be a father that loves his wife and loves his kids the way that you're supposed to, you first have to love Jesus. If Jesus isn't first in your life, you're never going to be the dad that you can be, okay? You're never going to be the mom that you could be if you don't first put Jesus number one in your life. You're never going to be the brother, the sister. You're never going to be the son, the daughter. You're never going to be any of these things until you first love Jesus. The Bible tells us that we love only because he first loved us. We are only able to love Jesus because he first loved us. We didn't even know Jesus existed. We didn't even know he cared for us until he came and died for us and proved his love to us. Remember last week I said that, I'm just going to say it again, I told everybody that we're stupid. And the reason for that is we can't just trust God when he says he loves us. He had to prove it. And for us, as blind sheep as we are, he has to prove it over and over and over for us to remember it and continue to fall back on that love. Okay? So we only know what love is because Jesus came and showed us what love is. If you have not put Jesus number one in your life, if he's not the thing you're pursuing more than anything else, above your kids, above your spouse, above your home, above your money, above your job, then you're not going to be able to love them the way that you're supposed to love them. I know you think that your kids are the biggest thing in the world, but if you have them as the center of your life and that's all you care about, you can't give to your kids the way that Christ intends for you to give to your kids until you take them out of the center of your life and replace that with Jesus. Does that mean you're not going to be a great dad? No, it means you're even a better dad. It means you're a better husband. You're a better mom. You're a better wife. You're a better kid. You're a better father. You're all these things. Only when we put Jesus where he should be, which is number one. Jesus knows this, and so he tells us, before you can follow me and be my disciple, everything else has to come after me. I have to be number one. I've got to be the number one thing in your life. Only then can you be a dad. Only then can you be a mom. Only then can you be a husband, a wife, a son, a daughter, a brother, or a sister. If you're not doing that, then you think you're doing a service to your kids, but you're not. There's a lot of kids in this church, great kids, right? The best kids. Not the Jennings kid. Great kids that we feel like we're doing so much for, and we've given them everything. We've gave them new shoes, the best clothes, the best house, the best Oculuses, the best Xboxes, all this stuff. And yet we're not teaching them the love of Jesus, and we're doing them a disservice. We're not really doing what we think we're doing, all right? So Jesus knows this. He's not telling us to hate them, all right? And we have a hard time with this because of that, but he's actually telling us everything should be loved less than we love Jesus, okay? So then he goes on and says this in verse number 27. Whoever does not bear his own cross and come after me cannot be my disciple, okay? So that goes along with verse number 26, where he tells us that, hey, in order to be my disciple, you're going to have to love everything less than you love me. Bearing your cross. We talked about this cross a few weeks ago when I made the statement that the cross, we've romanticized it. We've turned it into this symbol of our faith. But when Jesus talks about the cross, I don't want anybody getting the idea twisted that he's talking about this item that we celebrate, that we wear around our neck, that we wear on shirts, hats, we tattoo it on us, we hang it on our walls, we do all this stuff with it. Anytime Jesus talks about or refers to a cross, he is only talking about death. And not just death, suffering, sacrifice, misery. Cross was not a favorable term. Cross is not something that they celebrated. Cross was something that everybody was terrified of. It is exactly like if we were to say, I could say, I guess it's two words, electric chair. Nobody in here gets all bubbly and giggly when I say electric chair. You think of the worst possible death that we could ever come up with now, right? Gas chamber. These are things that are torture. These are things that are misery. These are things that were painful and suffering and reserved for the absolute worst of people. So when Jesus tells his followers, you've got to pick up your cross, they looked at him like, what in the world are you talking about? I'm telling you that I want to follow you, that I approve of what you're doing, that I want to be a part of that I want to see more people healed. I want to love people the way that you love people. And you're telling me to hate my family and then pick up my cross and follow after you. It doesn't make sense to me. What he's saying is everything, not just your family doesn't come after me, right? But even more than that, everything else has to go. If anything is getting in the way of me in your life, it's got to go. Following Jesus, we have convinced people, is the greatest decision they'll ever make because everything's going to be great after that. You're going to be happy, you're going to be rich, you're going to be healthy, you're going to have all these things, and it's going to be fantastic. That's not why it's the greatest decision in your life. The reason it's the greatest decision in your life is because with Jesus, you receive life, you receive a pardon, you receive forgiveness and grace. And the opposite of that, if you don't receive Jesus, you get hell, you get death, you get suffering and misery. And so it's the greatest decision because we respond to the free gift of salvation for us, and it gives us life and hope and light in a world of darkness. But it's going to cost us everything. There's going to be times in your faith, if you walk close enough to Jesus, it's going to cost you friends. Kevin, how many people avoid you when you walk up? You know why? Because that guy's crazy. He will start talking about Jesus at the drop of a hat. I've seen him corner people at ball games, and I avoid him. Because I'm like, I know he's talking about Jesus, and I've got to go get me a steak sandwich right now. Right? If you follow close enough to Jesus, you're going to lose relationships. You're going to lose friendships. People are going to avoid you because you're weird. You're crazy. You talk about Jesus too much. It's going to cost you plans. Right? Every one of us think we know what's best for us. I was going to college to be a math teacher, and I can't even do math, right? I was going to be a baseball coach, and I coach a team, and I have to get the high school coach to come help me because I don't know what I'm doing, right? Yeah. So we think we know what's best. God tore one of my ACLs and sent me to Lakeview to learn that's not what's up. What's up, right? So we think we know what's best. You think you know what the best thing for you is. You think you know what your job should be. You think you know what house you should live in, what state you should live in. You think you know everything, but you don't. And if you follow close enough to God, then you're going to find out more than likely your plans are not his plans. And he has something bigger for you and better for you, but you can't see that because it's not what you want. But if you follow enough to Jesus close enough, you're more than likely going to have your plans changed. It's going to cost you everything. So why does Jesus say this? Why does he has the crowd in his hand. He could have done anything or said anything to convince them to never leave him. And he says, you got to put your family behind me, and it's going to cost you everything to the fact that you're going to actually pick up your cross, you're going to walk around this death sentence, and it's eventually going to be the end of you in this world. He goes on in verse number 28 to tell us why he brings this up. For which of you, desiring to build a tower, does not first sit down and count the cost, whether he has enough to complete it? Otherwise, when he has laid a foundation and is not able to finish, all who see it begin to mock him, saying, this man began to build and was not able to finish. Or what king going out to encounter another king in war will not sit down first and deliberate whether he's able with 10,000 to meet him who comes against him with 20,000? And if not, while the other is yet a great way off, he sends a delegation and asks for terms of peace. So therefore, any of you who does not renounce all that he has cannot be my disciple. When somebody comes in to a pastor's office, says, I want to be saved, a pastor's eyes light up. Right? I remember being 8 years old on February the 2nd, just today, 1997. Right? Again, it's 28 years ago today. Right? I'm looking at math people. Anybody? We're going to go with it. 28. Okay. The guy from Tennessee said okay. They teach them how to count Tennessee. Alabama, not so much. We're worried about football. That's why y'all haven't won. So, I'm just kidding. I'm wearing Tennessee coral. 28 years ago today, I walked into a pastor's office and I said, I would like to be saved. And he said, repeat after me. And I repeated after him the greatest prayer of all time. All we're worried about in that moment, and I say our because I'm throwing myself collectively, that's not what happens in my office, and I'll get to that in just a second. All we're worried about is, hey, we got another salvation today, let's bring them up and let's celebrate. Very few pastors are saying, before you give your life to Jesus, let me tell you what it's going to cost you. Right? Let me tell you what it's going to be like. Let me tell you more about salvation, about what being a disciple is. Let me tell you, it's not just about, hey, I'm going to heaven, and that's great. That's a big part of it. But it's about giving your life to Jesus. There's surrender. There's sacrifice. There's being a disciple means you're going to follow him. You're going to live your life no longer for yourself, but you're going to live for him. And so, in order to truly count the cost, why would Jesus tell us to count the cost? All these people that were coming, why did he say, before you follow me, you need to know that it's going to cost you everything? Why did he not just say, y'all follow me, and I've got 3 more years to kind of try to hook y'all so when I'm gone, you'll still be here? You know why the turnover rate's 95, 98, 97, and those are just estimated numbers, so you can take that and throw that in the garbage when you leave. But why are the turnover numbers in church so great? Because we have people coming in, and we've preached happy messages that tickle people's ears, and they sound great, and they make us feel good, and we go to lunch, and we think about how great the sermon was from Rick this morning, and it really enlightened me and encouraged me, but we haven't been told there's going to be a cost. And so the very first time we face trouble, the very first time that we face any kind of pushback, any obstacle, we run the other way. Right? In our Bible study, we were learning this week how to study a verse and take it and put it into context and break it down. And as an example, I use Romans 8:28, which we take as, for everybody that follows God, everything's going to work out for the good. And I just paraphrase that, okay? And so our asking the people, before you put that in context, what does that mean? And Haley brought up a great point, which I had not even thought of, from a completely different angle, which was, if I read that text just out of context, it looks like to me that if good things aren't happening to me, then I must not belong to God. And that has been on my mind all week, Haley, because that is exactly what's happening in churches. We have told people that if you follow Jesus, it's going to be a fairy tale, and everything's going to be okay. You're going to be able to handle situations. Everything's going to go work out for your favor. And we've told people, like Romans 8:28, we've taken that out of context to tell people that as long as you follow God, everything's going to come back and be good, and it's going to glorify him. And so we sit in the middle of our sickness when we've been diagnosed with cancer, or we sit at our home with no money in our bank account, or we sit at home and we're struggling to make our marriage work, or we have a sick kid, or we have an ailment, or whatever it is, and we're sitting there and we've been told forever that if I belong to Jesus, so it's all going to be good. And we wait and we wait and we wait on it to be good, and then it never becomes good, and we say, Jesus must not be real. Or, as Haley pointed out, maybe I just don't belong to Jesus. Maybe I was never good enough for Jesus. Jesus doesn't want to help me. He doesn't want to save me from cancer. He doesn't want to save me from all this. That song that McKenna sung, Even If, the song, I hope you listen to the words. It's about, I'm going to praise you, I'm going to serve you, even if it doesn't go the way that I want it to. I watched Jason suffer for a couple of years with cancer, and one of the greatest faiths that I've ever witnessed in my life, the day he passed away, he was still preaching, would not tell me what he wanted the funeral to be like because he wasn't going to die. He had it. God was going to save him in any moment. And he never stopped believing that. He never stopped having faith in that. But even if he doesn't, he was preaching, he's still great. He's still been way more better to me than I could ever ask for, I could ever deserve, I can ever even fathom in my life. And that's the faith we're supposed to have. So Jesus tells us, hey, I'm telling you right now, being my disciple is not going to be easy. The world is going to hate you. Just wait until you see what they do to me. Wait till you see what they do to Paul. Wait till you see what they do to Peter. They're going to try their best to kill John. They're not going to be able to. And they're just going to throw him on an island to die. That's how the world sees you as a Christian. The devil is going to come at you even harder than he's ever came at anybody. Because for the first time, there's going to be a movement in this world, and it's going to take over like wildfire. And as long as you're being a disciple, refusing to bow down, refusing to stop talking about me, then my life, my legacy, my sacrifice, my grace is going to live on, and it's going to continue to spread. So in order to stop that, Satan is going to throw everything he can at you. He's going to throw bankruptcy at you. He's going to throw cancer at you. He's going to throw marital problems at you. He's going to throw job problems at you, stress, anxiety, depression. He's going to throw everything he's got at you because you belong to me. Jesus says if you don't know that beforehand, you're eventually just going to quit. You're going to stop going to church. You're going to stop praying to me. You're going to stop reading your Bible to me. And that is the absolute worst thing that can happen. You know why? Because the whole world wants you to fail. The whole world wants this church to stop today. It's waiting on Live Oak to shut the doors so that it can say, told you so. Jesus was a bunch of hogwash. All those people that were proclaiming that he was the king of the world and he was the answer to everything, look at them now. They're frustrated. The world crushed them. Their Jesus did nothing. And so why should I follow that? The absolute worst thing is for somebody to come in, pretend to be a disciple, and then in a couple of years, if they make it that long, just stop altogether. Because it gives the world every bit of reasoning behind what they've been preaching, which is you don't need Jesus. You need more money. You need more sex. You need more drugs. You need a better job. You need more friends. You need a bigger car. You need a bigger house. You need more state championship rings. You need more of this. You need more of that. You need to keep chasing things in this world that matter because Jesus isn't going to cut it. And so when we quit, we just give them, what's the word I'm looking for? A reason to believe what they're thinking. I don't know what that word is. Validation. Thank you, Mom. Jesus says, to be my disciple, it's going to cost you. But before you decide to do that, before you decide to jump in, you need to know the cost. And he was very clear on this. He was telling us this because he wanted us to understand what was coming our way. Not to run us off, but to know and understand that if we're really in this, it might be difficult. But it's worth it. And it's the most important thing we could ever do because the only way that people ever make it out of this world, the only way that people ever receive hope, the only way that people ever get past the junk that the world's throwing is to have faith that not delivers us from these problems, these agonies, but helps us endure it, that gives us hope beyond it. And the only way to ever receive that, to ever have that in our life, is to truly follow him and understand that our life belongs to him. And so it takes disciples that stick it out. They get so ingrained in the Word of God, so drenched with the Word of God, saturated with it, and so in love with him that our faith and our love for him becomes unconditional the way that his love for us was unconditional. The reason the cost is so expensive to be a disciple is because the cost to make you a disciple was so expensive. Like I said, nothing's free. Christ offers you the free gift of salvation only because he gave his life for you. Now, we're not paying him back. We're not trying to earn that salvation, but we're doing the very best we can as disciples to reflect that love with our life. Many of us, most of us, probably all of us, will not be asked to lay our life down for our faith. As of right now, it wouldn't happen unless you went to another country. Maybe not your physical life, but every one of us have been called to make a sacrifice. To lay down wants, desires, friendships, relationships, job opportunities, education. Taking and getting rid of some of our idols. Again, not to hate your family, but to love them less than you love Jesus. I promise you, if you begin to put Jesus number one, it would amaze you how your family dynamic would change and begin to look completely different. Not because you hate them, because you're able to properly love them. Being a disciple is expensive, but it's ultimately worth it. And I encourage each and every one of you, before you jump in, to count the cost. Know what it's going to cost you, and not run from that, but prepare yourself. Spend more time in the Word. Spend more time in prayer. Spend more time around people that want what's best for you. What's best for you is more Jesus. Let's stand for prayer. Every head bowed, every eye closed.